What was your problem with it then?
I didn't have a problem.
I think you did, though.
You think wrong.
But Steve, I mean, let's talk this through, buddy.
I'm okay with James Brown.
You like some James Brown?
Sure. I couldn't name any of his songs, but
You sure?
okay with it.
Are you a big Anne Murray fan, Steve?
Yes.
How did I know that?
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with Anne Murray. She has one of the, besides Karen Carpenter,
Whoa.
one of the most beautiful voices ever. Yep.
Okay.
Love Anne Murray.
I believe you.
Almost as much as Elvis did.
I believe you, man.
Mm-hmm.
You do what you got to do.
Barry Manilow too. I'm a big fan.
Okay.
Sure.
All right. Well, what do you like most about Anne Murray?
Her voice.
Her voice.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Nothing else.
Well, no. I mean, what else is there? Like, she sings good.
She sings good.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, she still does. She's still alive? Yeah, she's still alive.
I don't know. I don't keep up on Anne Murray, Steve.
I don't either. I just, know some of her music.
I think you do keep up on Anne Murray, though.
No.
I think you do.
I do not.
Much like you keep up on Engelbert Humperdinck.
Not a fan.
Not a fan?
I don't think so. I couldn't tell you anything that the man did.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Somebody's here.
Oh. Somebody's at your house?
That was a doorbell, wasn't it?
Oh, my God. Oh, boy. Oh, boy. Oh, boy. It hurts me in my brain to have to deal with him, man.
That was actually my wife texting me, not Anne Murray.
Not Anne Murray?
No.
Nobody thinks you're going to cheat on your wife with Anne Murray, Steve.
Okay,
you can drop the fucking charades here, okay?
Yeah. You can calm down, Bob. It's all right.
Clear.
All right, I gotta test something before we start the show tonight, gentlemen.
Before we start the show, you started it 10 minutes ago.
We gotta break down the fourth wall here. Well, I want to test the the show bed music that I use for the end of the show, which is also kind of for the beginning of the show. But
let's do that before you hit the live button.
Well, Steve, I couldn't remember.
Yeah, you noticed that I wasn't paying attention, and you started asking questions about things that you thought would embarrass me.
Maybe.
And I owned it.
Maybe. But I need to know if this is of an appropriate level. Does that sound better? Huh?
Does what sound better?
Yes.
Matt, can I when I go down to see him,
I'm not gonna be here.
If I leave Ohio and there's a dead body,
bury me at the Serpent Mound.
I think that would be a damn good idea.
Yeah.
Does that sound a little lower? I lowered it in the player. I mean the audio.
We'll play it again and talk over it, and I'll tell you.
I was trying to.
Oh.
I was trying to do just that, Steve. Just that. Talk over the music. What do you think?
I defer to Matt.
What? You defer to Matt?
Well, he seems to have more of an expertise with bed music.
Why is that?
I don't know.
It's just your opinion.
Everybody can listen to something.
My opinion is it sounded fine.
Okay. It sounded lower?
Yeah.
And not as in your face as the last time that I used it at the end of the show.
I was able to understand you over the music.
Okay.
Is that what you wanted to know?
Yes, Steve.
Oh. Why didn't you just say so?
Holy fuck. What's wrong with you?
I don't know.
Like, seriously, on a true level, what's wrong with you?
I've been asking myself that for at least, well, how old am I? 47, 48, for at least that many years.
Yeah. I don't think you were asking it for like the first 5.
I bet you I was.
No, I don't think so. I mean, I think a lot of strange things about you, Steve. Even that I don't buy.
Well, somebody was asking it. I'm sure from the day I was born. What the hell is wrong with this kid?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Damn,
So
your mother.
being asked.
Your fucking mother. But yeah,
They broke the mold when they made me.
they broke something.
Unfortunately, you are still in it.
As if on cue, right?
Anywho, let's get this fucking show on the road.
I dropped my phone, by the way.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
Fucking jackass.
It
No,
wasn't intentional.
Now fucking mute so I can fucking start the show. You dick.
Mute.
Yeah. Bob.
Steve Alcorn's a fine investigator.
Oh, fuck off.
This is the Fortean Slip with your host, Chris York.
I don't need porn, Chris. I have a good woman.
Listen, I have a good woman. I still watch porn.
Co-host, Steve Alcorn.
You are the top shit in Bigfootery if you get the invitation.
Oh, are
I've
you?
gotten the invitation 2 years in a row now, Chris.
Wow, not me.
And sometimes special guest, Matt Knapp.
It's part of growing older, you know? Maturing. Makes me more dignified and stuff. Okay, George Washington. I opted for the
Is that what meth addicts say?
That make me more dignified. Taking on all things strange since 2013.
Wait a minute.
I don't know what the hell.
Are you saying that he's pregnant?
Possibly. Was he implanted by one of these teenage aliens?
Did that happen to Arnold?
This device, which comes as part of Nintendo's Quality of Life initiative, is to
He's gonna have
Quality
kids
of life.
running around banging their heads off bricks.
Yeah.
You're about to witness the strength of creep knowledge.
Good evening, and welcome to Fortean Slip. This is episode 81, the Barney and Betty Hill Abduction. It was a dark and not so stormy night when Barney and Betty Hill took a drive back from Canada down through New Hampshire. Betty was giving Barney a nice little handy.
You don't know that.
Barney enjoyed the way her silky white skin looked on his big black cock.
Whoa. Whoa.
What?
Is that appropriate?
Why is that not appropriate?
I don't know. It just isn't.
He was married to the woman. Do you think he didn't like the way that her hand looked on his dick?
I'm sure he did. That's
What
not for us
you
to
are,
judge.
Steve, again, this is very indicative of you are the problem. I bring up a very beautiful thing between two people.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
We're talking about.
A wife stroking off her husband while he's driving down Route 3.
I mean, yeah, I think that's a beautiful thing, but some of our listeners might not agree.
Chris has created a whole new category with this 40 and ASMR. It's awesome.
That's right.
And it's better than his hand on her cock.
Well, yeah, that.
Yeah.
Well, no, it depends. I mean,
That's just a different situation, Matt.
yeah.
That's a car ride with Chris in New Hampshire.
Remind me not to be in New Hampshire with Chris.
Shit. So, Steve, I'm aware that the Betty and Barney Hill abduction is a favorite of yours.
Yes.
Yes. So you probably didn't have to do much research. Not that you would do any to begin with.
I didn't do any research.
Yes.
I took a nap. I mean, I told you that earlier. It was
Yeah. Well, I was hoping you might, brush up
I did not.
on the whole. Excuse me, Barney and Betty Hill abduction. I ate too much before the show.
I
I'm
remember.
not even gonna lie.
I had a pound of chocolate milk and a pound of Colby Jack cheese today. That was good.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
How'd that make you feel?
Not
Steve?
so
Not so good?
No, cheese works the opposite on me as it does most people.
Okay.
So, yeah.
All right. I got you.
But it's so delicious together.
I'm with you. What's that?
Cheese and chocolate milk, delicious together.
Cheese and chocolate milk.
Yeah, I know a lot of people like wine with their cheese, but
Yeah, but not you, Steve.
I bet you Barney Hill likes some cheese and chocolate milk.
You think so?
Yes.
Think so? He was from Philly, I guess.
Well, see, you like the cheese then, the cheese steak.
You think so?
Oh, yeah.
You think that was a thing back in 1960, whatever?
It's Philadelphia.
Late 50s?
Yes.
You think so?
Well, of course it was. I'm going to look it up right now on Google.
Come on.
I'm right. I know I'm right.
Steve, I have breaking news that the newspapers of the time were saying that Betty was working the tip.
It doesn't say that in the newspaper. And you know how I know that?
How do you know that, Steve?
Newspapers were very conservative at the time.
They wouldn't.
They wouldn't talk about.
They wouldn't have said she was cradling the balls and working the shaft.
I'm typing, by the way.
Steve, find out what you're gonna find out, my friend. I mean, I'm here for you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, I was right.
Yeah?
Yep, it was invented by Pat Oliveri in 1930s.
Oh.
Yep, hot dog vendor.
You had a hot dog dinner?
A hot dog vendor.
Oh.
Open your ears.
Oh. Wow.
Or maybe I should speak a little more clearly. One or the other.
What are you even talking about?
Betty and Barney.
Oh, no. I researched Barney and Betty Rubble.
Oh, shit.
Well, listen, if you listen to Betty, it sounds almost like fucking Fred Flintstone every time she says his name. Barney! Fucking Barney! Barney was out of the car. She's so New England, it's not even funny. So, Steve, you did no research for tonight's show.
No.
On Barney and Betty Hill, or Betty and Barney Hill, however you may.
I did as much research as I normally do.
What's that, Steve?
I did as much research as I normally do.
But you know something about this particular.
A little bit, yes.
A little. Tell us what you know, Steve.
There was this couple named Betty and Barney, and they were coming home from Canada.
Yeah.
They saw a UFO.
I said most of that already, Steve.
Well, that's where I learned it from.
Nothing else?
Oh no, they were abducted by aliens apparently. Oh, allegedly. And Betty was drawing star maps that were actual star systems that hadn't been discovered yet. Pretty cool stuff.
Wow.
Yeah. I bet you didn't know that.
No, I didn't know that.
But they have since been discovered. Am I correct?
Oh, the star map shit?
Yeah, the star maps.
The star map shit, Steve?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's okay. Yeah, I knew about the star map shit.
Yeah, well, they've been discovered that actually exists now, correct?
There's some speculation on that.
or something very, very similar to what she was drawing.
I mean, what's a star map? How do we define that?
It's a map of stars, Matt.
Right. So, like on this star map, did she have like distances between the stars,
I don't recall. I'll look them up.
or was it just dots on a paper? Because there's billions of stars, so anything that you draw would probably match up pretty closely.
Oh, it was pretty detailed, actually.
But there's speculation that is not as close as what they claim. Carl Sagan supposedly took a look at it and said that the ratios, the distances were not close enough to note any relative point in the known universe. But I mean, hey, there's some interesting shit. So, but what you're telling me, Steve, is you don't know anything.
I know a little bit. I know about this story. I enjoy the.
You know a little bit. What do you know?
I just told you.
That's it. You know, like 3 details.
No, I know that
What's the story? Tell me the story, Steve,
Tell me
because
the
I don't
story,
know the
Steve.
story.
they were abducted.
So it's nighttime.
You have this couple.
Matt and I are tucked into bed.
Mm-hmm.
Separate beds, by the way. Steve, I don't want you to think any hanky panky is going on between Matt and I.
He just got me a glass of water.
That's right. And I have a hot cocoa, Steve.
Ooh.
And I want you to tell me the story of Betty and Barney Hill.
Okay. So Betty,
I'm waiting, Steve.
I believe she was a social worker, correct? Or some sort of. Because you're not going to help me out at all, are you?
Am I supposed to?
Well,
Steve, I'm getting a story told to me. I was getting a dab hit ready.
well,
It doesn't matter what you say, Steve. I don't know, so I'm going to go with it.
you don't know this story?
No,
Matt
not
is
at all.
unaware of this story.
I don't believe you at all. Everybody knows the Betty and Barney Hill story.
Steve, I mean, you tell us a little bit of something.
I thought this happened in Maine, but apparently it happened in New Hampshire.
It was in New Hampshire, Steve. And tell us all about how you think that interracial couples are horrible.
I didn't know.
Well, listen, you had such an issue with me talking about it.
When?
When I talked about her stroking her husband's fucking black cock.
I didn't have an issue with the color of his cock. It could be purple for all I care.
Then why was there issue at all, Steve? Tell me.
Because it's inappropriate for all viewers, and YouTube is gonna.
Steve, when has our show been appropriate for any viewers?
Why were they in Canada?
Betty and Barney here were a couple.
Matt, let me clue you in a little bit. Let me help our good friend Steve out for a second here.
You don't think I know anything about this?
The Hills were on a brief vacation.
Yes,
to Niagara Falls.
of course.
They went over to Montreal. I assume to hook up with prostitutes and have a little bit more fun because Mr. Hill liked himself some hanky panky. But that's my own personal opinion on the matter.
Not supported by any facts.
Not supported by it's supported by zero facts actually. But
I thought you did some research on this. All your research is speculation.
I did some research and I researched that
The hand job was a speculation. You don't know that happened. The prostitute thing, that's speculation. It's not factual. I can tell you a fact about Betty and Barney Hill that you may not know.
Okay.
They had a
Tell
dog.
me.
Their dog's name was Delzy. He was
I knew all about the dog.
He was a wiener dog.
Was the dog with them?
No.
Steve, I can tell you a story about me that involves a wiener dog.
No, I don't want to know your wiener stories.
I know this story, so we should just stick to the subject at hand.
Steve, let me tell you something. I when I was in my single years, just
Here we go.
Anyway, so you want me to tell you
So what happened was, I went to meet a lady, and I went up to her room the end of the evening. When Steve, when you're supposed to go to bed,
I don't think
quote
I know
unquote,
this
go to bed.
story.
And
I think you should stop now.
and Steve, I was trying to have intercourse with said lady,
Oh my God. Please do
and
what I think you're gonna say.
and I was trying to slip my penis, Steve,
Yeah,
into her vagina.
that's usually how intercourse works. Yes.
Yes. As that's going on, the wiener dog stuck its nose up my ass.
Oh well, he wanted
So his name was Snowbird.
to get involved. It's
And
now if it had
and
been
Chris lost all interest in sex whatsoever for the evening.
yeah.
That's one version, Steve.
I don't want to know the other version.
I wonder if the Hills ever had that problem with their wiener dog.
They may have. Did you know?
No, I didn't. Maybe I did.
Barney was a U.S. Postal Service carrier.
Yes, I knew that he worked for the U.S. Postal Service.
And I was correct that Betty was a social worker.
She is.
But what I didn't know is they were active in their local Unitarian church. Did not know that.
Yeah.
Members of the NAACP.
Steve, would you like a better rundown of what happened the night of their?
I'm reading it right off of Wikipedia right now.
I guarantee you mine's better.
Okay. But is it factual?
Yeah.
So they went to Montreal to look for some French-speaking hookers.
Yes. Back to my original opinion, Matt. No, they went to Niagara Falls for a vacation. They went through Montreal. And as they were coming back, they came back through into Vermont and over into New Hampshire. Now, it was on September 17th, 1961, that they left to go on this trip. They were on their return on the 19th. So you can tell it was a short trip by the, their departure and their return.
Possibly a weekend getaway.
Right. So they're on their return on the 19th of September, and they stop in Colebrook, New Hampshire. I forgot to grab the time on this one for, I assume, for dinner at Howard's Restaurant. And that's known that they did that.
Not to be confused with Mel's Diner.
That's right. No.
Howard's Restaurant still exists. I'm going to have to stop there. Sounds like a family.
You should stop there. So, and I guess there's people out there who go back and they go on this return trip. They like go to all these places.
The pilgrimage.
Yeah, the pilgrimage of Betty and Barney Hill. So they stopped there at the restaurant, got some grub, and then at 10:50 p.m. they were in Lancaster, New Hampshire. And that's when Betty saw a light in the sky that looked like a meteor or a shooting star, but it was ongoing. It didn't fizzle out, and it was going upward instead of coming down.
I've seen that.
Yeah?
Yeah.
You've seen a UFO, dude. You've been abducted.
I was told that it was like a meteor or whatever that was like deflected by the Earth's atmosphere, and that's why it was going up instead of down.
It's the Arrow meteor.
Hmm.
That's what it was.
I see.
But I wasn't abducted by it.
Not that you remember.
Now you opened a can of worms.
Well, you need to be put under hypnosis and make sure that you weren't abducted. You never know. You don't want to know. I want to know if I was anal probed or not.
Huh?
Well, that's what aliens do when they.
Whoa! What?
I would want to know if I was anal probed or not.
He just wants to remember the experience so he can
I
go.
don't want to know.
And he
I
can
don't
jerk
think
off to it.
I don't think there's a situation where that's information that I would want to remember.
Okay, well, there's a
Steve,
bunch.
unlike you, we'd all like to
It's
forget.
all right to admit.
Admit what, Steve?
It's all right to admit if you were anal probed. There's nothing wrong with it.
Okay.
Happens to the best of people like Betty and
And
Barney.
it's okay if your wife was giving you a handy going down the road late one night.
That's right. That's also.
But you had issue with that for some reason.
It's not
But you're
okay.
perfectly fine with anal probing?
He's a very strange man.
It's not okay to assume that somebody was getting a hand job.
Matt, if you had said, so the gentleman got sucked off in a bathroom stall through a hole, Steve would be like, "Oh, that's completely understandable."
If you
But if you said to him in the same sentence, the gentleman had missionary sex with his wife in the back of his vehicle after they stopped on a back section of road. That's horrible, Matt. How dare you bring up such things?
no. Neither one of those things are appropriate.
So what happened after she saw this meteor-like object?
Yes. So that was when she first saw it, and she kept commenting on the thing. Now, from what I gathered, because I watched a few different things, and from what I gathered is that Betty was like the she pushed this heavily. Like she was very like, what is this thing? I need to understand this. Whereas Barney was more like, yeah, that's weird. It's interesting, but it's probably just something normal. You know what I mean? But she was very like, this is odd. This is strange. When they stopped, they went down. They were going down Route 3, I believe it is, in New Hampshire. And then they made one of their first stops after the restaurant near Twin Mountain at 11:20 p.m. And Betty Hill had remarked about the UFO. She had said they were bright colors, like a bright orange light, almost a reddish beam, and there was like a blue light on a police cruiser. They were just a flash of different colors. And I had never seen anything like it before, and it was moving quite fast. When I saw it go in front of the moon, I was sort of fascinated, and I kept watching.
I seen the same thing.
The same thing, Steve. That's amazing.
You just described it as one of my unexplained phenomena sightings, yes.
Steve, you're a phenomenon of itself, Steve.
Except mine, there was two in mine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you know, I mean,
But the coloring was...
You just gotta one up the hills, huh?
No, I'm just telling you that...
Yeah, I know where this goes, Steve. 30 minutes from now, you're going to be talking about it, and you're like, well, I mean, I didn't actually see it. I just heard it.
yeah.
No, I saw it.
Yeah.
I,
Steve's the best. Don't worry about it.
the way you just described it was pretty similar to what I observed.
Okay.
It's also similar to the opening of Sailor Moon.
That's right.
I have never seen that.
I know.
After they stopped at Twin Mountain, they went through Franconia Notch, and the UFO went around Cannon Mountain and stopped and what they mean when they say this one is they say stopped in front of the old man of the mountain. The old man of the mountain was it was a rock that stuck out off the mountain when looked at from a certain direction as you were driving down the road, looked like a man's face.
So she sees this thing that looks like a meteor, but it doesn't go away.
No, it's very persistent.
And just like the whole time that they're on the road, she's like seeing it flying around.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it's continuing and continuing. So they saw it there in front of the old man in the mountain. And Excuse me. Then they made another stop to get a better look at the object because they wanted to make sure that the erratic movements weren't because they were in a vehicle. They didn't want they were both seeing it and they were both like, well, it might be moving erratically because of the car, the movement of the car. So let's get out of the car and see what the movements are like. And at this point, Barney had remarked at how fast the object was, and then it seemed to fly in and out as if it was like a ball, like on a rubber band.
Mhm.
And someone was smacking it out, and it was returning and then zipping back out and returning. Yeah. So they went back to their car and they went towards the Indian Head Resort. And I guess the plan was that they were actually going to stay at the cabins because it was late. They were thinking that was probably a good idea. But instead of stopping at the cabins, because Betty was so intent on figuring out what the fuck this thing was, she convinced Barney to keep going.
Oh, Betty.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's what happened. And they looked further. So, but before they could get a spot to get out of the vehicle and get a better look at the craft again, the craft shifted directions and came over the top of the car. And came to a stop over the top of the car. Well, mirrored them. So it caused Barney to have to stop in the middle of the road. And this is, of course, near Indian Head. At which point Barney had remarked when looking back on this, and this is not their hypnosis testimony or whatever you may say. He had said it continued to have a forward look facing me as if it swung and did not move from its position, but just swung from position with the front still facing me. And it moved to my left, and I continued to look and began walking across the highway. At this point, he had gotten out of the vehicle. Betty did not. She stayed in the fucking car. Barney got out with a pair of binoculars and walked over to an adjacent field. As he was looking into the craft had windows. I'm actually going to pop up a picture here. This is kind of like the every rendition that they show of this damn thing. That thing.
Ooh.
So when Barney had looked in, he had claimed to see figures. Now, I can't remember whether it was under hypnosis or whether it was his actual recollection, but what he had actually attributed these things to, or what he had likened them to, was Nazi officers and the way that they moved and the way that they were very regimented. They were very structured. But he had seen people inside the craft or beings inside the craft. Whereas Betty didn't necessarily see that. That was so Barney goes over and he's looking at the craft from the field. At this point, and as you can see in the picture, Betty looks up, but she's looking for either sky or lights or something, but all she sees is the bottom of the craft. So all she sees is black at this point. And at this point, they black out, basically, the two of them. And when they come to, they're 35 miles south of where they were, and they're driving. According to them. And they knew that they were that far by the mile markers, I guess. Neither of them spoke about the encounter. They got home, and based on their trip and the time that they had left and everything, and that their, the times that they were making, Barney had expected that they would get home by 3 a.m. They did not get home until 5:15 a.m. Barney felt a strange sensation in his groin.
Huh. That's what happened. Now we know.
Yeah, now we know.
But you are supporting it.
And there were there were some noticeable signs of something, but later on there were found 21 3/4 inch growths.
Ooh.
Which some people have said were genital warts, and other people have disputed that. But they were in the shape of a circle, I believe, around his penis, Steve. Yes. Yes,
Where genital warts are near your penis.
That's sometimes, Steve.
Near.
Sometimes.
Or on.
Near and adjacent to.
Yes.
Yes, Steve. Sometimes there is some speculation that you can get throat cancer from it.
So he got an STD from Nazi aliens.
Could be. We don't know. We don't understand this whole thing.
Or maybe the French hooker story was true.
Barney and Betty both felt clammy and contaminated after the event when they got home. And their watches and their binocular straps were broken when they got back to their house. The tops of Barney's shoes were scraped and ruined, or what he described as ruined. If you look at them, it looks like they were scraped across or dragged.
Like he was dragged.
Right. And later on, Barney claimed to have remembered being carried or being lifted as if by nothing, but yet his feet were dragged across the ground. So that is one of the speculations of why that his shoes were like that. Afterwards, they were sent into separate rooms. Now, obviously, they're husband and wife, so they've been together quite a bit. They could have coordinated, but they were sent into separate rooms, and they drew pictures. And what they drew was eerily similar. This here that I'm about to show you guys, it's a depiction of the craft, but I don't know that I think it's just one of their depictions, because I think it's Barney's and not Betty's, because it shows people in the craft, and she never claimed to have seen people in the craft. But I don't know what the case is. There's also speculation that after she had heard things from Barney, that she had amended her story and took on what he had said. So I don't know, but I just wanted to make that reference that may not be her drawing. I believe it's probably his, but that was the drawing that they had made, which, if you looked at the other picture that I had showed you, that's kind of like what they were going for. I said that she had said that there were beings inside, and he did not. I actually took notes. Betty's dress had been destroyed. It had been ripped, and some other things had happened to it. Supposedly there's some pink powder all over it that had degraded and discolored the fabric. There was now, I guess there's a lot of skepticism about this next thing. There was a research scientist, Phyllis Budinger, who specialized in petroleum, chemical, and polymer analysis, who had looked at the dress and at the chemical composition of whatever had been on it. And she had said, quote, "I am convinced that the event did happen as determined by the chemical analysis I did on Betty's dress," unquote. Now, how
What
much
were the results of the analysis?
that I could not find,
Huh.
but that was what she had said. A lot of this stuff was done, and I don't know if that woman's stuff was done with this, but with a lot of the stuff was done by NICAP, which was the Unidentified Flying Object Research Group that was active in the U.S. from the 50s to the 80s. It still continues, but that was when it was in its heyday. That's where we get a lot of these.
NICAP was big.
Yes, and that's where we get a lot of these interviews with them and these transcripts of what they said. And they wound up going to a hypnotist. I can't remember his name. But he was a big time hypnotist. He was big into helping veterans coming back from the war. Was who worked on their hypnotism case. But anyway, days after they had gotten home, Betty had contacted a physicist, who through another friend who had told her to take a compass out to the car to test for magnetic anomalies. I don't know if that was due to radiation or whatnot. But when she did that, she noticed some shiny spots on the car. And I'll actually try to.
Beautiful car, by the way.
Yeah, I'm trying to find the. Oh, no, not that one. Not that one. It's this one. That one. Those are the spots, or that's a representation of how they looked on the back of the car. And when she would put the compass over these spots, it would get all fucked up. She tried washing and waxing the vehicle, but the spots would not go away. They made no. See, this is one thing I didn't find all that interesting. They made note of that she had washed and waxed the vehicle, the spots didn't go away, but that they faded away in the winter of 61 and 62. It happened in 61 in September. So it faded away in the winter. Okay. No, it didn't seem like that big of a deal to me. But that's the pattern of the spots on the car, and they were shiny and supposedly fucked with their compass.
I wonder who owns their car. If it's like still around and somebody has it somewhere.
That I did not look.
That would be cool, huh?
I guess parts of the car are still around because it's a 57 Chevy. So
okay.
Well, Betty, Barney died. I don't know how much longer after that. It wasn't a whole much further. Yeah, 69 was it,
Yep.
Steve? He died at the age of 47 from a stroke. Betty was still active in the UFO community, although she was quite a joke from what I gather. She became pretty much a laughing stock. She couldn't tell the difference between someone had said between a light post and a landing UFO. In other words, she likened a lamppost to a landing UFO.
it's possible that because of her experience, she in the search for answers, she may have just, like we know in a lot of the Bigfoot community, everything's a Bigfoot.
Gone off the deep end. Is that what you're saying, Steve?
Well, not gone off the deep end, but everything's a UFO to her, or everything is because she had that experience.
Yeah,
like Bigfoot people, everything's a Bigfoot to them now because they had an experience they couldn't explain. So I don't see that being super strange. It just happens to people when they have a traumatic event, even if it didn't really happen. She believed it happened.
right. So that's the story as it is, and that's without any of the extra layers or coatings or bullshit or whatever you want to call it. Then you go into the hypnotism, the story of the hypnotism, which goes down many roads, and that ultimately is when you get into the speculations that she was just taking what Barney was saying and changing up her stories, because according to her, he was the one that said that they looked like more like the grays that we know now. She before that said that they were like these guys with, like, if I remember correctly, like pompadour hairdos. But after she had heard Barney's recollection, she changed her story to match his.
That happens a lot of time in
So I don't know, and I don't know how
I thought
much credibility there is with the whole.
she didn't see the under hypnosis. This all happened. You're saying,
Yes.
so she's claiming that when they
And her dreams claimed that she saw more people, but under hypnosis, she said she only saw 3, which was akin to what Barney had said. And it's an interesting story, but so there's I have a problem with hypnosis in that people who get hypnotized, I don't know that they are ever truly unaware. I don't buy it.
I don't either.
So therein lies my problem.
It's clear that something strange happened to them that night, something that they couldn't explain.
Yeah.
But it's not clear that it was the story the way they told it.
Right.
Especially since you've got NICAP investigators want it to be a UFO. The hypnotist is probably hypnotism has never been proven to be a thing. We can't prove it, and the power of suggestion is real.
If I go by the movie that I watched, the hypnotist was very skeptical. But I don't know that the movie was akin to what the person was really like, so I don't know.
Well, being that I'm sure that Betty and Barney talked about it a lot when nobody else was around, because they were trying to understand what happened to them. So a lot of
according to them, they didn't speak about it at all.
They did. Come on, they're a married couple. They
Right, and I agree with you. I think that that's kind of bullshit. But if you go by what they said, they did not want to talk about it, or they did not talk about it between each other.
But if they didn't talk about it between each other, we probably wouldn't know about it.
Maybe her mouth was too full of that black dick, Steve.
It could have been. But
just fucking
reason you can throw all the hypnotism away. You can throw the star maps away, because I believe that happened under hypnotism. And you go back to the original story and something strange happened. The reason I find that these two credible, regardless of all the crap that happened afterwards, is because of their positions and their status as a interracial couple at a time when that was not a good thing in America. And he was a postal worker and she was a social worker, and they were involved in the Civil Rights Commission and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It did not do them any good to make up a story like this. None. It would have been detrimental to them
at that time. Yes.
I'd
have to agree with you.
Even now, it'd be detrimental.
No, I don't think so. I don't think so much now.
The interracial,
Steve, the interracial thing. No, now,
no. But the rest of it, still, if you
UFO stuff. Oh, yeah. Fuck yeah. That's more that's more embarrassing now than the interracial stuff was back in 61.
The fact that they were an interracial couple in 1961, they wouldn't really want to draw attention to themselves, because that would have made them a target.
Yeah, I mean, although Barney said he never had any issue with any men or any individuals up in New Hampshire or that area. There were some people that made speculation about that they had an altercation, but they did not. So I mean, one of the problems that I had with the movie was the fact that they made a big thing about them being an interracial couple. That the movie seemed more to me to be about them being an interracial couple than them having a UFO abduction experience.
That's weird. See, my line of thinking is he was a postal worker,
Right.
for the United States government, and at that time, like that would have been a really good job.
Yes.
Fine.
And like coming forward with like a crazy UFO story would put that job in jeopardy that he probably would not want to lose.
Probably not.
And like if they're involved in like the civil rights movement and members of the NAACP and all that, like I would assume that in some circles they were probably community leaders to a certain extent.
He sat on the board of
Oh yeah, he got involved in some political shit.
United States Commission on Civil Rights.
I mean, I see that stuff more important than the fact that it was an interracial couple.
Well, my only point with that is they wouldn't have wanted to draw that.
Steve doesn't like it.
No,
yeah, I understand.
Steve doesn't like it when they have sex with our women. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Okay. Those people.
No issue. No issues.
Steve has a problem with that.
No issues at all, and you know that.
You know that.
Well, I don't want.
No, I don't have issue with that. I love the black cock.
Kind of a touchy subject.
I don't think I won't put myself saying that in the next intro.
And I love the fact that you guys rip on me all the time. That's why I'm here.
Shit.
But that's one subject that I don't like. So I want.
No. Everybody knows we're joking.
I know. No, not everybody knows. Trust me. I get.
Well, they need to know.
People are Listen, Steve. People are idiots.
I know.
I don't know how many times I tell Alan Henniges that I don't need a producer. He still keeps sending me shit and telling me he'll be our producer.
And then lambasts you in the group and on Facebook.
Yeah.
Tells everybody he hates you.
But I understand with what you're saying, Steve, and I agree. Like an interracial couple at that time in America would not want to come out and like cause a bunch of attention like this.
Yeah. Even if they lived in a state or an area where it was kind of accepted.
Right.
Because it wasn't accepted in the rest of the country. So I just don't think his position, her position, their political,
the whole thing. There's nothing to gain.
Zero to gain
for them to do this. And it wasn't just one of them doing it. It was both of them doing it.
Yeah.
Right.
And telling the same story, regardless of the details and,
I'm pretty sure
hypnosis.
They were Unitarians, and I'm pretty sure it's pretty frowned upon in that particular religious sect.
To talk about UFOs.
Yeah. So it all points to the fact that something that they believed,
and more importantly, interracial marriage,
something that they believed was strange happened that night. Now, what it was, we don't know.
That's the problem Steve had.
Wasn't it? No matter what I do.
Steve, I hate to break it to you. You just made that even better than me just saying that. Because I said it and then you went, wasn't it? Oh, fuck. Oh, shit. But honestly, you guys are right. Their position, the situation, it's 1961. It's a black man married to a white woman. Granted, it's northeast United States. It's New Hampshire. This is not exactly a horrible place. It's not far from where I live. However, I've often said this to Matt. The Northeast is the south of the North.
Oh, well, that makes a lot of sense.
Well,
I've seen more Confederate flags in Maine, I think, than I
come to Ohio
ever fucking should.
But bigots and ignorance exist everywhere.
Right, correct. You are correct. So, but I don't think that this was an unwelcoming or a horrible place for them, but it was 1961. Okay. And I can remember what things were like in the early 80s when I was growing up here. And I can tell you for a fact that the first time that I saw a black family, they had come to visit uh, the lake where my grandparents had their home, and they had come to the next door neighbors to hang out with their family. And when I saw them on the dock, my jaw hit the fucking ground because I'd never seen a black family before, let alone a black person, besides on TV. And my father was like, Chris, cut the fucking shit. Jesus Christ.
Knock it off, boy.
So flash forward, obviously I've seen more than enough of black
More
people.
than enough.
Jesus Christ. Yeah, more than enough.
Stumble your way through this one, buddy.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, it's not the same as it was then. Maine was at one time one of the whitest states in the union by statistical percentage.
Mhm.
I mean, so while they were an interracial couple in an area that may not have been that detrimental, or looked or frowned upon or whatever, it was a very white area and statistically white area, even to this day. But there are all these inconsistencies with the story and shit that happened, and I don't know. After, like, on the outside looking in, when I first see the story, I see this couple. They have an abduction. They're on their way home from Canada. This is what happens. They recall it under hypnosis. She sees the star system that nobody's even fucking recognized before, long before it's even fucking been recognized. Da 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 da. This seems really fucking cool. But then when you start going back and looking at the actual points and the facts, it kind of unravels a little bit. And I'm not saying that I instantly go, fuck this. I'm out with the fucking Betty and Barney Hill story. Because that's not the case. I think it's a very interesting story. I think that the inferences that she found Zeta Reticuli long before, that might be a stretch. Although the fact that she even drew a map like that is very interesting.
Right.
So
I mean, why is this, social worker in New Hampshire
drawing
drawing a star map to begin with?
Right. So I do like the story, and it's a very interesting story. And this, because you have this couple, they're coming home from this vacation, they're traveling on this route, and they're making these stops along the way, to see these important things for them. The old man in the mountain. They stop for dinner up in Colebrook, which is a pretty laid back, cool place from what I've been told.
Giant rubber band ball.
Yeah.
World's
And
best rocking chair. Yes.
that too. And I want to believe in this. This is one of those ones where I want to believe. I want to be like, oh yeah, she did find the star system long before. But there's a big part of me that's like, there's just too much that says, maybe not.
Yeah, but see, here's the thing. Like, okay, like if you look at the base story, there's a big chunk of missing time there.
Mm-hmm.
Something traumatic happened. If we're under that assumption.
Right.
So then at that point,
to hold off on your point, you get right back to it. Under this assumption, we're assuming that they're telling us the truth.
right.
And then you got to go back to why would they make it up?
But I'm saying,
Why do people make anything up?
if they did have missing time like that, of course, it's going to be very easy to They're going to have the desire to fill in those blanks. They're going to have a desire to understand what they've been through.
Mhm.
So it's going to be very easy for them to, fall under suggestion and be manipulated by people asking them questions. And people, somebody might, well, have you ever drawn a star map, or have you ever, so
Right.
we already know.
I'd be curious to listen to these hypnotic sessions or these hypnosis sessions and hear what the line of questioning was.
Right.
I mean, because like you said, these could have been very leading questions.
And we know that people today, I mean, this is like a big thing, is where like police questioning, we know that people admit to guilt that aren't guilty.
Oh yeah, there's a whole documentary series about
So like if
about false confessions because
right, so
police
if she
drag
like
out of them.
changed her story up about seeing people in the ship or whatever, like to me that doesn't mean anything. That doesn't matter to me. That doesn't do anything to whether or not it actually took place or not.
I don't think any of it matters after the initial report,
Right.
because the initial report is what you're going to base everything else on.
Right, whether you take the whole abduction story into play or not, there's a whole story of them seeing a UFO and interacting with a UFO without the abduction.
And the initial report was actually not made to NICAP. It was made to basically Project Blue Book. So you would have to go to that
Right.
to see what was.
But NICAP wound up getting involved.
Of course they did. It was the 1960s, and it was all the
Well, it's no different than like MUFON would get involved today.
Yeah.
Right.
Or the BFRO or whoever.
Right. Yeah.
And if you can get the Project Blue Book report, I would go base the whole story, whether the facts of the story off of that, then rather than anything that happened after that with the hypnosis. And the NICAP reports probably have a lot of truth in them, but they're wanting it to be a UFO. When you report to a UFO research agency, they're not trying to debunk your story; they're trying to prove your story. So, and it's just the way it is.
Right.
Now, the Air Force would have been trying to debunk the story because that's what Project Blue Book did. But
what about now, Steve?
What?
What about now?
Well, they don't do UFO reports anymore.
What the fuck they don't?
Or do they?
The fuck they don't. And they take Bigfoot reports now.
They have.
Didn't you hear about that shit?
Ah, jeez.
They don't really take Bigfoot reports, do they?
Matt's gonna get upset, so I don't know.
Yes, I am.
I don't know if I should say anymore. Matt, can I tell you what I said on the Squatchable last night when Richard brought up the story?
Sure.
I said, yeah, I totally buy that they take Bigfoot reports, and that the file folder is as thick as a file folder.
Yeah.
Or it goes in the circular file.
And that's that was my take on it.
Yeah.
Well, it's just
if Bigfoot exists, the government may know, but do they actively take reports on it? Hell no.
But they're gonna find it with a thermal.
Well, that didn't have anything to do with it. What it had to do with was the fact that they took like one isolated event that happened years ago that the Bigfoot community was already fully aware of, where it was shown that like, oh yeah, they looked into it and found out that it was deer hair. Therefore, Bigfoot doesn't exist and it's all bullshit. Like that's all I've seen since is
the Peter Burns story.
Yeah, the FBI looked into it and found that it was all bullshit. Like, no, that's one single event involving one hair specimen that we were already aware of.
Yeah, exactly. But that's them admitting that they're looking into Bigfoot.
Yeah, sure it is.
They took a report in the what was it, the 70s or whatever.
Yeah.
The CIA, FBI take all sorts of crazy reports. Doesn't mean they do anything with them. They just happen to do something with that one.
If you call them, they're gonna record it.
They have to. No, they don't have to to analyze a specimen, but
We know a few crazy people who say
But in the
crazy shit. Can we
1970s,
get them to call?
there was a huge increase in Bigfoot reports for whatever reason. So if they were going to look into it on an official basis, I could see where it would take place in the 1970s.
But even in that report, they said, we don't normally look into this sort of thing, but we're going to do it this time. And maybe the person who decided that they wanted to do it had an interest in the subject. It doesn't mean that the government's covering shit up or anything, or hiding the fact that Bigfoot exists. We don't know what they know or don't know.
Well, I disagree.
Why?
Well, because you have lots and lots and lots of military personnel
Yes.
that have come forward with knowledge of sightings and everything.
Right.
I'm just a dude from Oklahoma, and I've seen one. So there's no way that the government hasn't been aware that these things are out there.
Or, well, they're aware of the reports of these things being out there. We don't know that they're actually aware that they're out there.
I think they're aware.
Okay, so let me kind of give you some perspective, Matt. You recall a gentleman kind of looked like a Keebler elf. His name was Jeff Sessions.
Yes, sir.
Okay. He was our attorney general. And he firmly believed that marijuana was as dangerous as heroin.
Devil's lettuce.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Yes. So, based on that, like the fact that there is this gentleman who, and I don't think that Jeff Sessions is an unintelligent man. I am not. When I point at Jeff Sessions and I say, you're a fucking idiot, I don't mean you're an idiot about everything. But you're an idiot about this because you believe in these outmoded things and you have this certain set of this belief structure about things. So maybe there are these people in the government, much like Jeff Sessions, who have this belief structure that it's fucking Bigfoot. This fucking thing doesn't exist. We don't care. Much like,
but that's also falling
Jeff
under
Sessions
the
believes that
assumption
marijuana.
you're comparing military personnel to people that are voted in by voters who have certain belief systems.
Military
and they have to cater to
in
those
relation
beliefs.
to what? What are we talking about?
Jeff Sessions.
What are we talking about with the military personnel, though?
Well, I'm talking about military personnel that have like
Had sightings?
had sightings and reported it to
Yeah.
their superiors, and it's been documented and everything.
Yeah. And they probably get fucking all kinds of bullshit. But when it gets up that chain, Matt, what I'm saying is that there are people who are up there who are just like, this is about fucking Bigfoot. Bigfoot doesn't exist. Nobody gives a shit. Whether or not this guy is a decorated or an honest or whatever officer or soldier, I don't think that matters at that point. Because Jeff Sessions had access to all kinds of fucking scientific reports about marijuana, but still believed.
No.
No. It's the same type of analogy.
No, you're under the assumption that he was telling the truth whenever he said that, and that's his actual personal belief, and not just the rhetoric he was spilling, so he could keep his voters on his side that believe that way.
And Matt, and to go back to the fucking Bigfoot thing, these people who do that may very well believe the majority of people aren't going to fucking buy into this Bigfoot thing, so we're not going to fucking do anything about Bigfoot.
Right. But that doesn't mean they're not aware of its existence.
And you're correct, but then again, we're talking about the people in the machine and the machine.
We're talking about, does the machine know that Bigfoot exists?
No, because the machine doesn't recognize that the Bigfoot exists. The people inside the machine may, but the machine doesn't.
But it
Because
still knows.
the machine doesn't know. The people inside the machine know.
Okay, well, that's
In
where
order,
the
okay,
thought
so
lies.
listen, no, in order for the machine to know, Matt, then it has to be accepted. Until it's accepted, the machine doesn't know. The machine is just doing the machine thing. The machine being the government. Until there are laws in place or recognitions of the animal being whatever the fuck you want to call it.
Well, the acknowledgement isn't going to be made,
Right. So therein lies the
but
problem.
that doesn't
The
mean they're not
machine-
aware.
The machine is never going to be aware.
We just found out this past year that the machine is aware of UFOs, even though they've never acknowledged it before. And now they are acknowledging it.
Yeah. Yeah, and yes, you're right. The machine is aware of UFOs.
So the same can be held true. For
And I
Bigfoot
think
as
you're
well.
right. And I think ultimately, in the way that you're trying to spin the logic, you're right. You're right. But you got to remember, until we have these things that are concrete, we looked into a couple of a couple of reports. That's not as much as we acknowledge the fact that we're looking into it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't think it's something that they're going to acknowledge.
Not anytime soon.
I mean, a UFO
They
flying
should.
across the sky
right.
is much easier to see by a large group of people than a Bigfoot hiding deep in the woods somewhere.
Right. But you're right in that they should.
I mean, where I disagree with people speculating that the government covers it up, I don't think the government has to cover it up.
No, they don't.
No. It's done for them. If you ask me.
Yeah.
They just don't have to acknowledge that it exists.
Yeah, much like, we were very worried about for the longest time. We were worried about Big Brother. Big Brother's going to come. Big Brother's watching. Big Brother, Big Brother, Big Brother. We're fucking Big Brother.
Yeah.
What's really funny,
We do it to ourselves. We rat on ourselves.
Yep.
well, our own ignorance,
Barbecue Betty.
our own ignorance and egos and everything about Big Brother is what's ridiculous because, man, people think that it's like so bad here. Dude, go to Europe, go to Asia. There's cameras everywhere.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Behind the fucking
Constantly being
behind the
monitored.
fucking iron curtain over there.
Yeah, if
The
you do
fucking Richard Allen
anything,
can't see a news story.
if you step out of line in the slightest, the police are there.
Whether there's a report of it or not,
Whether there's a report of it or not.
they're watching you.
Like they control like what you can access on the internet.
Mhm.
Yeah.
They control what's played on your television. But people here are like, man, I should be able to smoke weed and own an assault rifle.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
give me a freaking break, man. If you're talking about it on your cell phone and sending it through emails and making posts about it on websites and stuff, it's not hard for the information to be found.
It's not hard for the information to be found, but you also have to remember that we are but one person in a huge pool of people.
Yeah.
And for them to look at everyone would take an insane amount of manpower.
Or at least and see.
However, with algorithms and things like that, things are getting a lot easier for them to sift through the information.
I don't
I
think
just know that it's easy to keep people in control if they think you're watching, whether you're watching or not.
Oh, absolutely.
Sure.
Yes. Because for years I used to have have friends when, back when we were doing fucking weed deals. Don't talk about that on the phone. You gotta call a pizza.
Yeah.
You're coming over for a slice of pizza, man.
And these fuckers eat a lot of pizza.
my grandfather
Like, Jesus Christ.
my grandfather had a sticker on his door, on his kitchen door, because that was the front door. And it was just a security sticker.
And it said, I don't sell heroin here.
No, it's this house is equipped with such and such a security system. It wasn't.
Free candy.
It was just a sticker. But people believed that house was equipped with that.
Oh, yeah.
It's
Yeah.
the belief that you're being watched, or the belief that they're listening to your phone calls.
Whenever I was
Yeah.
young, I installed car audio and car alarms. And You know, it was a thing back then, you know, because car alarms didn't come standard on all cars, you know. You could buy just a blinking LED light that stuck to your dashboard and, you know, keep your car safe.
Still can. Yep.
And there are people who will think that it's a security device.
Right. So why mess with it whenever the next car doesn't have one?
But see, here's the thing: the pros know better.
Well, yeah, of course they do.
How many pros are out there actually actively scanning parking lots, though? I mean, they know the best
Listen,
markets ahead of time.
you can say that all you want, Steve, but the fact of the matter is that they are out there.
They are.
They do exist. Now, yes, do they exist in a lot smaller a pool than a lot of these fear-mongering news programs would like you to believe? Yeah, they're not in a very large amount.
But they're also not breaking into your Ford Focus to get your $200 stereo.
Right. They're doing it for a big score. They're not
They're going to maximize their potential.
Right.
If you drive a Kia Soul, you're probably safe, right?
Yeah.
I don't know about that, Steve.
You're safe.
There's not a lot of money in a Kia Soul.
Huge demand. Huge demand.
It depends on how many yard
I
sales
love my car.
and Goodwills you've been to first.
Shit, I parked my car in the middle of the ghetto in Cleveland and haven't had any issues. I don't care. I don't. I rarely lock. Well, I always lock my doors.
People are listening right now and gonna like come steal his car.
There's nothing in it.
If I ever want anything, you know, if I ever want that Nintendo 3DS, Matt,
I already sold it.
now I know. You motherfucker.
This guy.
You son of a bitch.
You didn't hand me $150 like the other person did. You expected a discount.
You see, Matt, no loyalty.
None.
That's
None at
what
all.
happens in this world. No loyalty.
Right.
None whatsoever. It's a world of just fucking fuck
I
you.
have a copy of Pokemon Stadium for Nintendo 64 if you want that.
I gotta
See,
fucking
why are you bringing this stuff up, Steve? You don't want us to talk about it, so don't bring it up.
yeah.
Regarding the Big Brother stuff, I'm
Yeah.
sure some of that stuff goes on,
Yeah.
but it's a lot less than what we think.
It goes on to people that like.
And you can watch it in 3D on a Nintendo 3D.
You're generally making yourself a target by openly talking about things that you probably shouldn't.
If you're not doing anything wrong, they have no reason to waste the time and the money on you.
It's the same idea as you're being followed by a police officer. You were obeying the law before that cop was following you, but you get paranoid anyway.
And there are cases, for the record, there are cases where innocent people and people who are in the wrong place at the wrong time get fucking accused, get convicted, get thrown in jail, and don't get out for years. Bad things happen to good people. But yes, by and large, if you're doing the right thing, if you're being a good person, nothing's going to happen.
If it was, it had happened to you, right? I mean, you openly speak about things that
Steve,
other
you
people.
would cry too if it happened to you.
That's right. But it's my party, so I'll cry if I want to.
I wish you would. Sob like a little bitch. I mean, you know, I don't know. To get back to the abduction, I don't know how much of the under hypnosis we remembered this shit that I buy into. But if we just take their base, the base of their story, what was there beforehand, if we accept that that's true, it's a very interesting story. You know, they stopped several times to look at this object, and they noted that it was very erratic. It was making some very strange movements. And Barney was convinced that it was just something normal at first, and then he saw it, and he's like, I don't know, that's pretty fucking weird. So,
Well, it seemed at the beginning Betty was the driver behind the story, but then during the event, because she made him stop, she asked him,
well, he wound up the way I saw it, the way from the things that I watched, she was the driving force at first.
and then
And as they kept seeing it and seeing it, he was more and more interested. He was the one who got out of the car with the binoculars and moved over to a field to look at the craft that was above their vehicle.
so he went from being a skeptic at the beginning to being a believer by the end of the encounter.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, look at it this way. She's sitting over in the passenger seat. He's driving, paying attention to the road. She's watching this thing intently
Right.
and seeing all this stuff and like trying to process it and bringing it up to him. And he's glancing out the window every now and then, looking at it like, I don't know. It's probably just, whatever. And like eventually it gets to a point where it's like, oh, that thing is still there. And now we've got out of the car and looking at it, and it's still acting crazy, and it's doing all this crazy stuff. Like, now I don't know what's going on. So it makes sense for that natural progression to happen in his case.
Yeah, because at first Barney thought it was a Piper Cup. He thought it was just a military plane. He's like, no, it's something, and he kept trying to brush her off. But eventually, he was like, okay, this is kind of odd. And then they stopped because they wanted to make sure that it was that the craft was being erratic, not the car shaking, causing the craft to look erratic.
Which is a very intelligent thing to do.
They got out of the vehicle, and that's when Barney noted that it looked like it was shooting in and out. It was going out and coming back in. And it was like a ball on a fucking rubber band. It was
And those comparisons and those little details in the story are what, to me, makes it sound truer.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't mean it is.
Right.
But it's just, like, if it was like a preconceived thing, like, hey, whenever we get back, we're going to make up this story and lie about it for no reason at all. Whatever the case may be, are you going to think of things like, okay, and then we're going to like bring up like the erratic movement and how we stop to make, or I'm going to compare it to a ball on a string and its movement. Like, it just seems kind of, I don't know. It starts crossing that line of which is more believable, even though it sounds that crazy.
And that's Barney's description of it, by the way. That's not Betty's. That's Barney.
Pre-hypnosis, correct?
Because he had been under the perception that it was a military plane or a jet of some kind, until he got out of the vehicle, and then he saw it, and he saw that it was doing this like slingshot motion back and forth. That's and that's when things changed for him, I think. So, but I don't know. I mean, it's a very interesting case. I mean, if we take it at face value and that they're telling the truth, then I buy into it as a very interesting story. Excuse me, without the hypnosis. Forget the hypnosis.
Forget even the star map and all that stuff.
Yeah. Forget the star map. Just the story that they saw this thing. It was acting in this way. It was going up instead of coming down, but it looked like a fucking shooting star. Then it fucking was above their vehicle. It had windows. There were people inside. The guy gets out, sees the fucking people in the fucking vehicle. The woman stays in, only sees blackness above her because obviously that's all she's going to see if there's just a fucking ship above her. Like, take everything else out. The interracial couple, everything. It's still a very interesting story. If we fucking believe that they're telling the truth.
I believe they were.
That's where you have to make this step. If we take it as they're telling the truth, then yes, fucking cool story.
When I say I believe they were telling the truth, they believe they believe they were telling the truth. They told it as they believed they saw it.
And I wonder because I heard all these things about Betty Hill becoming this just like kind of crazy UFO lady. I wonder if she became one of those people that just like Ahab searching for the fucking whale again.
Yeah.
And she just went crazy. Instead of Ahab, who fucking finds it, even though he's a fucking son of a bitch by the time he does.
Well, there is this guy who, due to his profession, was a very credible witness to a Bigfoot event. And he first started talking about his encounter, and everything about it sounded completely legit. And he was considered, one of the best witness testimonies to the existence of Bigfoot for quite some time. And he became obsessed with the subject, trying to understand more about it and learn about these things. And over time, it went from I had a glimpse of this creature that I've never seen before to they're interdimensional portal travelers that can magically heal people and turn themselves into trees and mind speak and are prophets of the future.
Yeah.
So that sort of thing does happen.
I know who you're referring to, and I went back and looked in the archives. Some of the
I don't know who you're referring to. Could you be a little clear?
No, I can't.
If you look back, he was totally at the beginning against anything other than being a flesh and blood being.
Oh, he was totally against Wu.
Yeah,
oh, totally. And he would fight with people over the fact that no, I saw this. It was a real creature.
And I saw the most amazing thing I've ever seen.
And so, do I believe that he had some sort of strange encounter? Absolutely. I believe that he did, but he is knucking futz now. And it happens. And it probably happened to Betty.
I think some big hairy guy fucking touched him.
It could be related to like a PTSD thing too. I mean, I don't know.
it could be having a life-changing experience and then never learning anything else about it again. And not being able to explain it. And I mean,
everybody wants to see a Bigfoot. Everybody wants to see a UFO or an alien, but what's it going to do to you if you do?
okay, well, if you come home from the store one day and your door's kicked in and your house is just in shambles where a thief's been in there and rifled through all your belongings and tore the place up and stolen all your possessions, you're going to be jumping up every time you hear a noise for the rest of your life.
Absolutely.
Every time you come home from the store, you're going to have that feeling in the pit of your stomach, like, am I going to come home to a house that's been kicked in?
Oh, well, okay, yes and no. It depends on the person. And yes, for a time you're going to come home and you're going to wonder. For some people, though, over time, that is going to go away. They're going to become complacent. They're going to get used to the fact they come in and there's nothing there.
Well,
for some people, it's going to be very detrimental for a very long time.
I think it depends on the person.
And it's going to depend on the person. I get what you're saying, but yeah.
And also, we're talking about comparing something that happens to lots of people every single day to, hey, there's creatures or beings from another universe that have this technology and came down and abducted somebody, wiped their memory of it, and did God knows what to them. A little bit more of a traumatic event.
Yes, absolutely.
But I can understand if she did go through that, why she would say a streetlight was a UFO landing. Because absolutely everything is a UFO now. She would be terrified, or at least the possibility of her being terrified.
Right,
would
and
be there.
when I heard that, that was one of the first things that I wondered was, is this a case where she's just crazy, or was it so traumatic for her? And I don't know.
And then the only other person that experienced was her husband, and he died shortly after.
Right, of a stroke,
And she's having to like
right, and she
go
had to
through the
deal with all of that
progression.
by herself.
Right. Because we all know that in all of these fringe topics, these communities that exist in the world, they've only become more toxic over time.
Oh yeah.
Well, add into the fact that she became famous after this event. Now she has to deal with the fame of this too, you know. So that's for some people, they can't handle even that part of it, just that part of it. So I just think it was the whole experience, and the fact that her husband died shortly thereafter. Now she has to deal with all the interviews herself, all the fame that come with that, and a lot of it being detrimental fame. You know, people, you're just a crazy bitch. You know. That
Oh yeah.
And then the encounter itself, whether it took place the way she thinks it took place or not, she thinks it took place that way. All that stuff put together, it would drive a lot of people nuts.
The one thing that I haven't heard from the event that it would help a lot if it was there. For the length of time that they observed this thing, it sure would be nice if there was somebody else not connected to them that had seen that on the same night.
That's what I want to know.
Okay, so here's the thing. There is corroboration that a local Air Force base picked up an unidentified flying object in their area at the time that it happened.
Well, the story says that it stopped over this signal tower, but there was also a restaurant there. Now, were other people from that area interviewed, people that were in the restaurant that night or at the signal tower that night, that kind of thing. And if there were, that would help corroborate the story.
Or other people driving along the same stretch of road.
But there was contact on radar that was that night. And that
doesn't that
corroborates the story?
I mean, wouldn't that add like a huge amount of credence to it if the Air Force is saying like, oh, well, there was something that we don't know what the fuck it was in that area at the same time.
Yes. Yeah. And I mean, so, but again, you know, it's one of them things, you know, how much of it did they just see a UFO and then they extrapolated all of the other bullshit?
Well, the missing time part of it really.
But again, we're taking the whole thing of, are they telling the truth?
Right.
This story is
something else. Okay, so like at the time, you know, you take into consideration that UFOs and everything were kind of like the main go-to horror thing of science fiction at the time.
Mm-hmm.
But what are the odds that they would have heard about missing time, or you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like I can understand,
I know exactly where you're going with it. And I knew you were going to go there.
seeing lights in the sky, yes.
Yeah.
But why would they add this story of missing time?
Again. Yeah. And like I said, I love this story. This is one of those stories where it reels me in and then I kind of go back out again.
There's very few.
And then it reels me in and then I'm like, wait a minute, but what about that?
Like a ball being hit with a paddle on a string.
There's very few stories that I find.
Wait. What?
Very few stories I find as interesting as this one. Rendlesham Forest is very interesting to me.
Yes, Rendlesham Forest. I love the Rendlesham Forest story.
And then
the other one. The more and more as I go on with UFO stuff, Roswell can suck a dick.
Yeah, Roswell didn't happen the way
you know. I like the Kecksburg UFO.
I do like that. I know a guy who saw the UFO that night, and there's no reason he would make it up. None.
And you said the same thing about Norm Glasser, and
No, I never said Norm Glasser wouldn't make up a story.
No, I really do. I like this story. I just think that if you want, you have to look at things. You can't look at things with a biased mind. As much as we have a biased mind, if you want to look at things properly, you have to look at them with an unbiased mind. And there are two sides to the certain parts of the coin in this story. Now, does that other side necessarily mean that the story is for sure the real thing or for sure bullshit? Not necessarily, but I think they need to be looked at. I mean, I personally don't want to be that Ancient Aliens guy
Well,
where everything is fucking Ancient Aliens. Matt, if you got a fucking abduction in the middle of New Hampshire at night,
yeah, but see, it's
and
common
there's missing
belief.
time, but they've never heard of that shit before. It's gotta be.
It's common belief in Fortean investigations of any kind where if you have an event and you discover a falseness in the story somewhere, a lie, whatever you want to call it, a non-truth,
Yeah.
that disqualifies the story at that point.
Sure.
And whenever you're pushing that as evidence towards the proof of something's existence having occurred, I absolutely agree with that. However, we also have to, on the opposite hand, be willing to accept the fact that that doesn't necessarily mean that none of the story is true or that the event didn't happen. There
No,
can
I'm
be
not-
truths and
not
falsehoods in an event.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, even in a criminal event, there's going to be truths and falsehoods in a
See, the thing that I have more of a problem with in this story is the hypnotism part. Everything else, I'm cool with. It's the hypnotism part that kind of skews it. And maybe I'm wrong for thinking that. And if somebody can,
Well, I'm with you on that.
Hypnotism is fucking weird. Change my mind. I'm that fucking dude
Right.
right now.
Prove
So
to me that it's a real thing.
hypnotism is the same level as lie detector tests. You can't prove any of that.
right. And
So
that's my problem with it. So
could it be real?
I
Maybe.
wanted to get to a question we had gotten from the chat room. If this was investigated by Project Blue Book, they sent it to Project Blue Book.
Yeah, I don't know if it was actually investigated. I have to look.
Who did they initially report the event to?
The Air Force was the initial.
Yeah. And then NICAP wound up getting involved, and they did all kinds of interviews with them. There's all kinds of audio of them talking about the encounter.
So that's another thing I think that adds credibility, because Betty didn't go to the UFO people first. She went to the Air Force.
Right. If you had made this story up, then you would have already been a believer in UFOs and been knowledgeable of UFOs or the stories that were out there. And you would have most likely gone to the UFO people with it.
Yeah, and you would have gone to NICAP first.
Right.
Because they're more likely to believe your story than the Air Force. Now, people did trust the military and they did trust the government a lot more back in those days. But then again, you got to remember they were an interracial couple, and a lot of black individuals did not trust the government at that point because of the civil rights movement was going on and things. So but that even kind of adds more credibility to it. She went to the government first,
Yeah.
Just, I don't know. Why would you do that? I don't think Betty sat down and said, if I go to NICAP first, sometime in the future, somebody's going to say, well, see, she didn't go to the.
And listen, we can't see inside of her head and what happened to her. And, he died not long after that. And we couldn't see inside of his head either. We have these recordings of them that do exist where we can kind of hear, how they were, but that doesn't really tell us much. So, I mean,
Back
we're
in
just
1961, you took a trip to Niagara Falls and went to all these places. You're not going to come home with a UFO story. You're going to come home with slides and show them to your buddies. You know, that's what they did in the 60s. They took pictures everywhere, and then they got a
maybe so.
party together, and they showed slides. That's what they did. And people still do that, but we used
And
to.
listen, I think it's very odd that a couple like this would wind up coming home and then having an alien abduction story,
Yeah.
or having a story of seeing a UFO, et cetera, et cetera. I find it very, very odd. But just because I find it very odd doesn't mean that we shouldn't look at it with the same veracity that we would anything else. That's all I'm saying, and I think it's a very good story, and I tend to think it's real. I think there are some situations, there are some instances in the story, some inconsistencies, some weird things that make me go, "Hmm." But other than that, all in all, I'm down with the story. I think they saw something. Do I think they were abducted? I don't know. I think they saw something very, very interesting.
Or believe they saw something very interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, so I mean, I think that this is a very believable story all in all, that something happened. The abduction part, I don't know, but the fact that they had an encounter with an unidentified flying object, I totally believe. The way they describe it, the way he got out of the car, he had his binoculars, he looked through the binoculars, he saw these things. He related to he didn't describe them as being as any type of a human. They were beings and they didn't seem human, but they reminded him the way they were organized like Nazis. That's how he related to them. Like they were an enemy.
And he could take you to the location where he got out of the car, and there's the field, and I stood right there.
Yeah, and
Here's the
so
binoculars I used.
yeah, so and you know there are certain things about it that I'm very like, yeah, I totally buy this. I buy that this is what this guy did and what he thinks he did, and or this is what he remembers. This is his memory. You know, then you run into that thing of that problem with memory. There is an issue there.
To a certain extent.
To a certain
Yeah.
extent, yes.
Yeah. What?
But I tend to think that this is one of those, you
That
know,
was like, you know,
I think this happened. I think that they saw this thing. Whether or not they were taken aboard it and things happened to them, I don't know. The thing, the circular thing around fucking his dick, that's weird.
yeah.
On any fucking planet, in any fucking solar system, I that's weird.
Now, going back to the memory thing, let's say you see a basketball rolling down the street. You
The
might
first thing I'd look for is fucking genital warts on fucking Mrs. Hill's fucking mouth and or vagina.
anyway, it's the memory thing. You can remember things wrong. You see a ball rolling down the street. It might be a basketball, but you might think it's a soccer ball. That's normal. You're not going to think it's an elephant, you know, that kind of thing. And that's how I mean, they might remember this story a little bit wrong, but they're not going to remember it that wrong. That it's just some ordinary common event. Like
no.
You know,
And I'm not saying that. I'm not. I think, you know, we have to keep that in mind when we're looking at this case, that this was taken from memory.
Yeah.
You know, there are some accounts that were very early on, so their memory was very fresh. So we can take that into account as well.
And
she reported it. She reported it within days, I believe.
Yes,
September 21st. The event happened on the 20th.
Yeah.
19th and 20th.
It was the 19th, the night of the 19th into the 20th.
Yeah. So she reported it to the Air Force the very next day.
Yeah.
She says that she left some details out because she didn't want to be, you know, thought of as eccentric or whatever. But she did report the event And we even have the guy's name that she reported it to, Major Paul W. Henderson. Or actually, they called back. The Air Force actually called them back for a more detailed interview. So,
Yeah.
Now, he, like most Project Blue Book things, they determined that it was like they just misidentified the planet Jupiter. But
Right. but like other people have said, they saw a traverse across the moon
yeah.
when they were watching it. Jupiter doesn't cross the moon.
Now, Betty did have a sister who had reported seeing a UFO many years prior. So, and when the sighting was going on, she remembered that, and so it could have influenced some of the way she remembered it. See, I know this story.
You know a little bit, Steve.
Yeah, I know that Wikipedia told me stuff.
Yeah, I know.
But I do recall a lot of this after refreshing my memory on it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why it became one of my favorite stories, because first of all, it has everything. You have a UFO sighting, you have an abduction, you have missing time, you have genital awards. I mean, it's got everything.
It's got
everything. A good
I
UFO
even have like
exploration.
a roadside monument for it now.
I'm sure they do.
Isn't there like a plaque or a sign or something on the road that they're on?
Like I said, there's fucking tours. There's people who go on tours where they stop at the stops that they made along the trip. I think they actually make it in the same time frame. Like, it's some pretty fucking in-depth shit.
Crazy shit, man.
Yeah, this is a big thing, and I mean, hey, it's cool, and I'm glad that when we had talked about it, that you had said, Matt, why don't we fucking pay more attention? Because I had never really sat down and taken a look at it. I was like, oh yeah, this happened, and she drew some fucking stars. Oh yeah, it's on Ancient Aliens. Fuck it.
By the way, Betty's dress still exists.
Yeah.
Yeah, she threw it away initially, but retrieved it.
Well, and I'm glad I took a look at it, because it's a very interesting story. And I'm glad that I looked into it so that I knew more about what happened and what the actual facts are. And the facts is that the Air Force saw something in the sky that they couldn't account for.
Now, was that in the same location?
Yes.
Like, or super close?
Yeah, as far as I know, it was in around about the same location.
And at the same time that they were claiming to have the sighting.
Yes. Although the people claim that it was when Betty and Barney claimed to have been on the UFO, and that the UFO was on the ground the entire time. However, I personally think, how would Betty and Barney Hill have really known if the UFO was on the ground the entire time?
And we have no idea what.
Well, that would have had to have been part of the hypnosis thing,
right? So I don't know. Like like I said, there's discrepancies. There's things that point out that made me go, "Oh, this is definitely something that's interesting. That should be looked into." This reminds me of This is one where it's like the Cash Landrum incident.
That's the name of the one.
I love the Cash Landrum incident.
Yeah.
Very interesting case.
I think that one's got a very down-to-earth explanation.
Right. I think that one's more research project in the government being covered up. But, it reminds me of the Cash Landrum incident.
Very similar.
So, and I wonder, have you guys ever seen that X-Files episode where the fucking aliens come down and they abduct the people, and then all of a sudden the aliens take the fucking mask off and it's just dudes from the government abducting people?
Well, gee, thanks. I haven't seen that one yet.
Fuck off. You've had it spoiled.
Spoilers don't count with X-Files.
Yeah, it happened.
Like, if the show's been off the air for years.
I know, but I'm like at season 5 or something.
Yeah, well, then you've seen it already.
Anyhow, no, I don't think I'm that far, but
I don't know. But anyway, yeah. So I don't know, and we don't know, and I don't know that any of these, as with any of this shit that we run into, I don't know.
Well, there's all those rumors about
going to be
Nazi
answered.
technology. Maybe it was Nazis.
It very well. Well, this is 61.
Okay.
There's still
So-
Nazis around today.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. It's
Yeah.
true. They kind of rooted them out though, for a while. They might have
Well,
had
they went and like hid in Argentina or
fucking
whatever.
Hail Hydra. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
No,
And
he
if they
didn't
have
say.
a fucking UFO, you're damn right it's Hell Hydra.
I fucking buy Hail Hydra, dude. You know that's all you had to say.
Put out during the World War or anything and
Just
use it.
fucking tell me that Captain America's real.
Could happen.
Yeah.
You know, that's all I need, man. Just a little bit of hope. Just a little.
I got to tell you, you mentioned Captain America.
Oh God.
I went to the flea market today, but on the way home, I stopped at the Goodwill that's down that way. And in the window, because it's, it was Memorial Day, so they're trying to be patriotic. And the only thing they could find at the thrift store was this giant Captain America costume that they put on their mannequin and stuck in the window. It was just hilarious to me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Because it really didn't have anything to do with Memorial Day.
Did you look it up to see how much it goes for on eBay?
No, because I'm not allowed to buy anything that's in the window.
He said sex toy shop and butt plug wrong.
Yeah, okay. But I did find that funny.
I'm sure you did, Steve.
Yes, I did. I'm laughing on
We have
the
another
inside.
question in the chat room, and I'm going to chastise him for this one. Lance Windsor. Lance, we're talking about the abduction of Barney and Betty Hill. So if you could please keep your questions to the topic at hand. While we may wander, you should not. Keep that in mind at all times.
Cool name, though.
Yes, cool name, Lance Windsor.
He
should be a guy surfing.
Yeah, that's what I see as a Lance. It's like
Pacific
this.
Ocean, surfing. I'm thinking Johnny Unitas.
Wow.
No.
I was thinking a fine aged scotch, a fireplace, and an ascot.
Really?
Yeah. That was where I was going. More
Lance
or
Windsors.
Dude,
or a tennis racket.
I'm out fucking voted then. I've been voted off the island.
Well, no. I mean, I was thinking closer to the preppy kid of the
Point Break,
'80s,
motherfucker.
Preppy kid in the '80s with
That
the
works
tennis
too.
racket and the sleeveless sweater
Yeah.
and the polo shirt.
You guys are
Rodney
thinking
Dangerfield trying to buddy up with him,
white shorts. That's a Lance to me.
driving like a convertible,
Yeah.
Just a perfect specimen of a human being.
like snorting coke
But-
off some
but what-
blonde's tits.
Oh,
But
God.
what these all have in
right off
common
the
is
crack of her ass.
Yeah.
what all our
Wait a minute,
descriptions-
honey. Hold on. Don't move.
what all our descriptions have in common is it's somebody who's well-to-do,
Yeah.
who
Well
the
endowed.
surfer. Yeah, well, maybe.
My Lance Windsor has a huge cock. I don't know about you guys.
Well,
my Lance Windsor
well-to-do
only
people
thinks he does.
snort coke, Steve.
I don't know.
Okay.
I have no idea. But my Lance Windsor only thinks he has a big cock.
Oh,
So,
it's just a fantasy.
well, he just he's overcompensating, and that's what the tennis racket and the sweater's for. Make him look better
Lance
than he
is
is.
part Native American. He lives in Northern Ontario, Canada, and he's getting high as we speak.
Damn it, Lance!
So I was dead on.
You've destroyed my. Lance has destroyed my.
Yeah, you
my
had
whole.
the pipe part and nothing else, right?
Yeah.
You suck, Lance.
So Lance's question, totally off subject. Where did this Bigfoot woo come from? Where did it start? Does anybody know?
I do.
Matt can answer this question for you, Lance.
It goes way back.
Refer to Matt for this. He is a Bigfoot expert.
Published.
The Washington Post, they have announced him as a Bigfoot expert.
Mistakenly.
He also is the main contributor to Bigfoot Evidence, the Bigfoot blog. So, Matt, take it away.
Which route do I want to go with it, though, now that I have the ball in my hand? It could go back to technically various Native American folklore about different beliefs because the different tribes have different beliefs about the creatures. But the actual Bigfoot woo of the modern Bigfoot community can be traced back to, I believe, a gentleman by the name of Eric Beckard from California, who's no longer with us.
May he rest in peace.
Yes, and Eric was well known for his outlandish tales and beliefs and harassment of people. And he was the one and only person that reported Bigfoot going through portals and turning invisible and all of those things until after his death. And then it slowly started to grow in popularity with other certain individuals who can also usually be traced back to the California and Pacific Northwest areas and spread out from there.
I would imagine.
Eric actually had a photograph. He was one of the first people to produce photographs of nothing and circle like 15 things on it with a red pen.
Yeah.
And he actually had a photograph that he claimed was a partially, I don't know what you'd call it, like a Bigfoot that's not completely visible, but
Partially cloaked. Yeah.
Right, partially cloaked, except you could see the Bigfoot's penis.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
That's the last part of the Bigfoot to cloak.
oh, yeah.
And Eric's big belief or big claim that his style, his method of research that he liked to push was Bigfoot were attracted to people having sex.
Yes.
So he would try to get female researchers to go have sex with him in the woods for the
I
sake
like where fucking he's going.
I'm not even making this shit up.
Wait. No. Chris, you don't
Matt?
like where he's going.
No, I do.
Bigfoot research females. You
Matt.
really want to go that route?
Listen, there's some that are decent looking out there.
I'm not even making it up though. That's
Name
the truth.
one.
Come
I'm
on
just
now,
kidding.
Steve.
I'm just
Come on
kidding.
now. You fucking asshole.
I am an asshole.
No. I mean, I'm thinking I like his game.
Yeah, I mean, just like every other cult leader I've ever heard of. Pretty much it. That's all they're after.
For the record, the female that you both know that I went to the kill site, quote unquote kill site with.
Oh, yeah, who was that?
You know, wanted to have sex at the kill site.
Oh, yeah, it attracts Bigfoot.
Just saying.
Yeah.
Just saying. I was not down with that, gentlemen. And I'll tell you why.
Really?
A large brown bear
Wait,
on the
what?
way in.
Yeah, I think it was the very large fucking bear that it
So
just.
what we've learned tonight is that Betty and Barney Hill may or may not have seen something, and Chris can't have sex when animals are present. That's what we've learned tonight.
Matt,
I told you
and
that was one version of the story, Steve.
I'm just saying.
it was a big ass bear, Steve.
And it was a little dog.
Yeah, but it was a wiener dog.
It stuck its nose in my ass, Steve.
Was it its nose?
Yes,
You sure?
I'm positive.
Would you look?
No, because I could feel the little asshole's tongue.
Maybe that wasn't his tongue.
Oh, I know, because I fucking know, dude. I'm
Okay.
aware.
Maybe. I'm just saying.
I'm just saying. I'm just saying.
I know what you would say to me in that instance. It's never happened to me.
Hey, you know, sometimes shit happens. Totally throws you off your game, Steve.
And sometimes you just roll with it.
A wiener dog's cold nose up your ass. Sometimes it's not good.
I don't think the cold nose would have bothered me as much as the tongue. I'm just saying.
Yeah, there's only so much I can do.
No, they would have both bothered me. And I would have probably been, the results would have been fairly much the same. But
You know, that's
bear
why
thing,
that's why I fucking bail out. That's why I tap.
the bear thing, if a bear's going to attack me, what better way to die than having sex?
Listen, why do I want to bang her? And you know the her I'm
Well,
referring to.
yeah, I don't know why you wanted to in the first place, but
Fuck off. At the kill site. after a fucking bear has just gone through there?
Because that's
I
the
had a
best way
hard
to die.
My fucking turkey sandwich.
I think what Chris is trying to say, you can regroup and recover after a wet nose up the ass,
Yeah,
Yeah.
you can.
but you can't recover from a brown bear.
It just walked through. It didn't like attack anybody or anything.
Nobody was out there having sex either.
Actually, it was more than likely a black bear. In retrospect, it looked very large.
The
and
bear was brown.
It
in
was
color.
brown in color.
So I can call it a brown bear.
But I just want to clarify, and even the person who I was with, who was a biologist, she had a master's degree in biology, she had even commented at the time, she was like, that was really big if that was a black bear. But it was a black bear.
Yeah, it wasn't a grizzly or anything.
No.
But
But
black bears attack
there
more
was
people
no
than
way
grizzlies do.
But there's no way I was poking her there.
No.
Like, I mean, maybe in the back of the car with all the doors closed.
Well, you weren't like out in the open. You were going to be in a tent or something, right?
No.
Oh, out in the open.
At
We went
the
there
kill site.
Dude, we went for a day trip.
I didn't know you meant out in the open
Yes.
at the kill site.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that does change the story a little bit.
Yeah.
Immediately after the bear or like an hour?
How many people do you think have like shagged at Bluff Creek where they saw Patty?
Steve,
Not very many because nobody goes to the correct
listen
site.
to me.
Whatever.
It's the fact of the matter that she wanted to do it in the first place.
It's kind of weird.
It's kind of weird, Steve.
Well, yeah, but that when's weird ever stopped you
When's weird ever stopped me?
from having sex with a woman?
Okay, listen.
I thought weird was part of your criteria.
Listen, Steve, I've had my moments. And I'd be the first one to tell you that unless you've been balls deep in a woman and you've been afraid for your life, you've never lived.
Right. That's what I'm saying. When is
I'll be the
weird ever
first
stopped
person
you?
to fucking say that. But, that was one of those instances where, if I am feeling kind of scared and it's in reference to the woman that I'm with.
That's okay.
That's one thing.
Okay.
It's one thing, Steve. If
That's
I am
exciting.
scared and it's because a bear might come up behind me.
Chris isn't trying to be vulnerable and distracted in bear country, okay?
Yeah, I like fucking balls deep and fucking bears around, Steve.
I don't know.
When
I mean,
I come, Steve, I'm not exactly thinking, where should I be defending from?
but for some people, that could be pretty exciting. And maybe she was that
Steve,
way.
as much as I'm looking for the next rush, buddy, that's not the rush I'm looking for, my friend.
I don't know. I think I'd have done it. Not with her. But.
You can wrap a belt around his neck or something.
Are we back to scarfing?
It always works its way there.
Yeah, I know.
Does Steve have any news?
No.
No, he doesn't have any news this week.
Please? Something?
I think this is the best show ever. What are you talking about, Matt?
I can make it take a hard right now, Steve. Anytime you're ready, you just let me know.
I'm never ready to do
Matt
this show.
had that way about fucking finding the way to take the hard right in the show.
Couldn't help but notice pictures of a garage sale, Steve.
Yeah, what about it?
I was just curious, how many boxes of Playtex did you sell at your garage sale?
2.
That's
2 of them.
fucked up.
Why? I'm not the one buying them at the yard sale. That would be different.
That you full shit.
I bought them originally, yes, to resell.
Bought them originally.
Yeah. Sold them, put them out for sale at a garage sale.
And
Yard
sold
sale,
some.
rummage sale.
Steve, do you wear women's panties?
No.
Never?
I'm saying, to me, that's not something you purchase at
But somebody did.
somebody's yard.
But somebody did.
Somebody did, Matt.
Well, you do live in Ohio.
This is true.
What the hell is that supposed to mean?
Nothing. Ask people from Florida.
That's right. Florida man. Florida man is
I went to the flea market today and they were selling Velveeta cheese out of a tin.
loose.
Now, I wouldn't buy the Velveeta cheese, but it was there.
Yeah. Steve, I think it's about time we wrap this shit up. What do you think?
I just don't think there's anything wrong with selling Playtex panty liners at a yard sale and buying them from a guy.
Thank you for the next drop for the opening.
I always fuck myself over, don't I?
Shut up. Thanks, Dave. This has been the Fortean Slip, episode 81, the Barney and Betty Hill Abduction. If you like this shit, hit the little thumbs up button. If you don't, hit the little thumbs down button. Leave a comment. Subscribe. Check out Matt Knapp at youtube.com/bigfootcrossroads. Encrypted tales. I'd say check out Phil Foley at Para Breakdown. But I think there's some type of a breakdown. But if you'd love to, you can go to youtube.com/Para Breakdown and check out Mr. Phil Foley. Check out Richard Allen's. Just check out his fucking goddamn college trip, Bigfoot and Stephen Hall on Facebook. And as always, check out our good friend, Dred Funn, at dredfunn.com and youtube.com/. We'll be back next week with some type of a show about something. We have some dissension in the ranks about which subject's good and which subjects are bad. But fear not. Much like fucking Bruce Campbell, I will cut through this bullshit and not find my way anywhere near where I should be. Miraculously. But we'll be back next week. Thank you all for joining us. See ya!